Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy and welcome back to Jimmy Does Knitting. I am a knitter, crocheter, expat living here in Amsterdam. It's beautiful, it's sunny today. It is a wonderful morning. I did yoga in the park. It was really nice. So today we are talking about my first sweater and the most recent sweater that I have knit, and that sweater is the Redford sweater by Julie Hoover for Brooklyn Tweed. I knit, they're black, so they might be a little bit hard to see, but we'll walk through them. We'll go through everything. We're gonna put some pictures up over here so you can see it. The model is wearing red. It's a basic set and sleeve. It's knit in pieces and seamed up, and it has this exterior detail that we'll go over in the future. And then a little bit of a V-neck purl stuff. It's quite nice, actually. And yeah, so I've chosen to make this. Let's go through it. Let me put on the first version of the sweater and we will talk about everything, and then the second version, and then compare. This is the first version. Maybe you can try to see. It's lovely. It's black. Surprise. This is going to be that sort of episode. So, the Redford sweater. At the time when I bought the yarn and stuff for this, I was a really new knitter. I'd knit only hats before, and I was like, I'm going to tackle a sweater. I don't know if this is a great first sweater, but this is what I did, and it was doable. I think it took me like 4 months or something. It really took me a long time, and I don't know how it took me so long, but it did. But I got it done. I really love it now. I think I really didn't like it at the first place, but it's worn well and it's gone through the whole winter with me. And I think also it drapes a little bit better since, you wear it, you live into it. So let's get into this. This thing, I'm wearing shorts, by the way, because it's warm. But this thing is knit in pieces. So you have 6 pieces. You have the front piece, the back piece. There are these 2 side pieces right here and the sleeves. The key about this thing that makes it special is it has this detail, which I'm not sure that you can see, but the seam that's exterior, and I have it also on the cuffs and on the neckline to add a little bit of like, not so plain, but a little bit of interest in with it. I went to Stephen and Penelope to buy yarn for this, and I got their tandem wool, and I swatched and everything for it, and I got the DK wool, and I managed to get, I think, the gauge on the swatch, but when this knit up, that didn't happen. It knit up at, I would still say like a fingering weight gauge, but not the gauge that the pattern was written for. But I didn't realize that at the time or anything. So I got the color Copenhagen. It is 100% wool. It is 90% merino and 10% tencel. I'm not quite sure. I don't have the ball band left. I have like a little tiny bit of one of the skeins left, and so I don't have anything to show you. But it is definitely a DK weight yarn on a fingering weight pattern. So I increased my needle size as well. I used an Addy fixed circular on 3.75 millimeters. It called for 3.25 millimeters, and I don't know. Whatever. I knit the smallest size because I thought that was my size. It got a little bit bigger. I would say it's in between sizes 1 and 2 on me. So that's a thing. And then I just knit. So I think you start with the back. And so I knit the back, and then I knit the front. And then the front has this lovely decrease, which is nice because then you can see like what is the front and what is the back. I would say that I didn't know how to do make ones, and I don't think that the instructions they didn't click for me. So I have some weird make ones, and there were some holes in here, and I had to go back and like sew them up a little bit later. But it's my first sweater, it's fine. And then you knit in pieces and whatnot. For the sides, this is actually supposed to be purl stitch. So you knit something that's symmetrical, which this for some reason when I knit it was not. Like one side was different than the other. I don't know. And then the purl side comes here to add a little bit of texture and interest with things. I will say, and I didn't take good notes, but I realized it in my second version, that my row gauge was off. My row gauge was off a lot, and I did not know about that, care or whatever, and I didn't realize it until the second one. But what that did when I was knitting is I made the sleeve cap, like the shaped cap, was longer than it was supposed to be. So I had to knit less rows for the arm shaping because I finished the length before all the decreases, and then it threw off the sleeve cap. And so the sleeve cap is actually a little big for the opening. And I will say that on this one especially, but also on the other one, it has a little bit of bunching in the sleeves, which I don't think is great, but that's a user error. That is not a thing done by the designer. I'm sure that if you knit it as written with the proper gauge, that it is wonderful. But it ended up being about 2 inches longer on the sleeve portion before we start the cap decreases. So I'm sure that that's, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 1 inch, a couple centimeters longer than it should have been. I also ended up stretching it to get the gauge as opposed to laying it flat. So I really stretched it out. So what was supposed to be 15 inches is less than 15 inches, let's say. It's 14 or whatever, because I was like, this is how you measure. Wrong, didn't work. So you knit it in pieces, you block them, and then you sew everything together. I was doing a hat at the time, which names escapes me, but I really loved the 3x1 rib, and I still love the 3x1 rib. I just don't know how appropriate it is for everything. And so I put a 3x1 rib on all of it, and it's not, I don't know if that's a good sweater edge rib, maybe 2x2, maybe 1x1, but that 3x1, it just wasn't working for me. And also I had trouble binding it off because I just did the standard bind off where it's you knit one, yarn over, knit one, yarn over, and it was so tight, or it was so loose. You can see on the bottom here that it is quite rolly and not my finest work. I probably should steam block it, but I'm not going to because it's fine. And another thing that I did, which looking back, I'm so amused by, but at the time I was like, what is this? Is they say you need to pick up stitches the wrong way. So this little detail sticks out. But what I did is I picked up the bind off stitch through the back loop. And then this is just the front loop of the bind off stitch. And those things were tight. And I could barely get my needles through. And I did it for the cuffs. I did it for the hem. I did it for the collar. It looks okay. This detail's not as prominent because it's just literally half a stitch. And I, did the decreases and whatever. So that's how I did that. It took forever. I was so with it, but as it's worn, I love it. The wool, the yarn is great. It barely pills. It's pilled a little bit, but I've worn it a decent amount. It's black. It's a simple sweater. It's a wardrobe staple. It's really nice. But this went on a little bit of a timeout, and I, knit other things, did other things, blah, 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 blah. Now, for the second sweater. The second sweater is knit a little bit differently. It is a mohair one. Fancy, fancy, fancy. So let's change into this really quick and we will be right back. All right, quick change done. This is a mohair version of the same sweater. I did not recheck for gauge. I did not do whatever. I sort of went off my other sweater in order to make this one, which I also think was a bit of a mistake. I should have probably done something a little bit more appropriate, but here we are. I used the exact same needles as I used for the first one, which was my 3.75 fixed circulars, and I used 2 yarns this time. So this was actually part of a stash busting effort. I used the rest of my cone of ink Holst yarn, and this I had to buy 2 more balls to make it work, I lost yarn chicken. I went on holiday in the middle of this, so it did take a while to make, but it still went a lot faster than 4 months this time. So my favorite Holst, it's ink, and I use the cone, and I have this left of a second ball, and then I paired that with Drops Kids Silk, and this was also in my stash. I had 5 of these. I don't know why I had 5. I don't know how to order yarn. I always way over order because I'd rather have more than not, but then I just have too much. So I had 5 of these. I ran out. I ordered 3 more. I only needed 1 more, but here we are. And I have black mohair and I have black Holst. So will I use these again? Absolutely. It's fine. It's going to be all right. So that's what it's knit out of. And the Holst is the Supersoft. It's 100% wool, 50% Shetland, 50% merino. It's my go-to sort of like more inexpensive wool because I like it. I think it works well, and it's great. So this whole sweater was not only a stash buster, but I mean the stuff I did have to buy was really cheap. I think I spent less than 15 euros or something on it. So it worked out well. Anyway, back to the sweater. So this sweater was knit, as I said, on the same needles, same gauge, because I've used this yarn combination for something else, so I know it was the same gauge as the other sweater, and so I used also the smallest size as the pattern for this. Now, I knit this one a little differently than the first one because I'm smarter and I know more stuff like a year and a half, 2 years later from my first one. Most noticeable difference, we can look at the cuffs and you can see. So we have a 2x2 ribbed, which works a little bit better. I have my lovely Italian bind off, which I'm always obsessed with, which is where you essentially like, what I did for this, because it's a 2x2 rib, is I swatched it. I swapped the stitches, which means I did like a twisted stitch. So I did a left leaning twist, and I like purled the first one and then knit the second one so that it arranged them in order of knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. Then what you do is you knit the knits and slip the purls with the yarn in front, and then you slip the purls. No, you slip the knits with yarn in back, and then you purl the purls. And I actually practiced my Norwegian purl when I was doing this because I knit continental and it makes the stitches all wonky. And with the Norwegian purl, you hold the yarn in the back and you keep it there. So normally when you knit, yarn's in back. Normally when you purl, it's in front, but with the Norwegian purl, you keep it back. And that works really well in terms of on the cuffs. It makes the stitches go in the right direction for me. And then I don't have to worry about like faffing with my yarn as I'm knitting and slipping and stuff like that. So those were the edges, and I did pick it up correctly this time. I picked it up through not the back loop of the bind up stitch, but where you would normally pick up a knit. So it has an actual like raised cuff part, which is really nice. And I think that this is much more successful than the last one. And then I did some modifications. The one modification I modified the side again. I didn't do it as a pattern. And another thing that I didn't discuss is that I modified the bottom. So the bottom, I don't know if you can see this, but the bottom is supposed to end here. And the pattern is knit, must be for like American sizes or something, but it's like too short. It's just too short for me. This is supposed to roll and there's supposed to be no ribbing, but I put ribbing on this one and the last one because it didn't work for me. So I added a 2x2 ribbing. I think it's a couple of inches long, just enough so it's the length that I like it. I think it's fine. It works in with everything else that, it matches the cuffs, it matches the collar, so it's not like the end of the world, but it is something to be aware of when you reknit it. Another modification is I did a moss stitch over here. So knit one, purl one, and then purl the knits and knits the purls sort of thing. And I was like, I decided to go the opposite. Before it was some texture with the purl stitch that you were supposed to have in the pattern. I did no texture before. And this time I was like, you know what? We're gonna make the texture even greater by doing the moss stitch. And I really like it. But what I really wanted was just some simple stash busting free pattern, because I already bought it, thing to get like a basic mohair sweater in my wardrobe. I'm always very cold, and I was like, why don't I have a mohair thing, because this is going to keep me super, super warm in the winter, and I'm not good with the cold, so might as well knit myself some stuff up. So what I did discover this time is the row gauge thing on the sleeves. When I did the sleeves, I knit them, and then I was like, this is way too long, so I had to tear back, and then the last 2 increases were really condensed, and then I immediately decreased. So the sleeve cap is a bit larger, but it's not too bad. One thing that I've done or have learned since, in addition to how to make one properly and knit and pick up knit rows and beautiful bind offs, is sewing sleeves on a flat, unseamed garment. What I think a lot of people do is they knit in the round, and they either knit in the round, which I've done before, I don't know about that, or they seam up the thing and then are like, oh, I'll just set it in this area first, which is not ideal. So here's how I did it. I, per the instructions, sort of sewed this into a vest without sleeves. It's not my preferred method, but because of the side panels, you can't really get the sleeve, whatever. But what I did this time to make it a little bit better, and I still ended up having to do it 1,000 times because, as I said, the sleeve cap didn't really match the sleeve hole exactly to the size you want it. But I started at the top here, and then I went down the front, and then down the back. And I did that to make the sleeve, and it made for a much even, less bunchy, more like flat laying, nicer sleeve. And I think that's how you're supposed to do it, is like do this part. And then what I did is, I mean, normally with a seam sweater, you're supposed to go like, you know, armpit to hem or something, or hem to armpit. I don't know, just do this all in one regardless. But I already had done this, so I stitched from the wrist up, and then I added the cuffs. But that seemed to work a lot better in terms of how to set the sleeve in and how to get it a little bit better. It has been warm, uncharacteristically warm here, so I have not worn this. This has not moved to my body. This has not been the beautiful shape that the other one has been. But it will get there. I think I might need to steam block the shoulders a little bit still. But other than that, I'm really quite pleased with how this turned out, and it will be a good addition to my winter wardrobe instead of my summer wardrobe. So those are my 2 Redford sweaters in a nutshell, and to see how I've done, it's really, I could tell that I've improved a lot. I've gotten a lot faster. My technique and my finishing and my, like, how this is constructed is much, much, much better, which is ironic because with the mohair, it literally blurs everything, so you don't see it quite as much, but it's a lot better done for the same pattern, and I think it's more intelligently done. I would not use the same needle. I would actually go down to a fingering weight and maybe use like a Mondim or something for the sweater if I had to do it again, but I don't see any more Redfords for me in my future. I already have 2, and I think that's fine. If I want a basic sweater, I have some other basic sweater patterns that I need to get into to do it. But it's really nice, and I'm looking forward to see how these wear and how it goes over time. It should be fine. I'm not really concerned. It's all pretty good wool. You know, these patterns are written well. I've modified it so it fits my body, and I think it will be good. Do I recommend this pattern? Yes, I do. I would probably knit it closer to gauge, so you have fewer issues than I do. And, you know, I'm always a fan of a darker yarn, but not everybody else is. People are like, why do you knit in black? It's like, I just wear black. It's a uniform. It's great. Hand knit sweater every day. Same pants, same underwear, same socks. I mean, I have multiple pairs, but they're all the same. I don't have to think. It's great. So yes, is this a first sweater? Probably not. If you're really adventurous, you can. I'd probably make it a second or third or after sweater. It does feel like a lot of stockinette at times. It's not tremendously complicated. It's more of like the finishing techniques of the seam on the outside and picking up these things. I think make it an advanced beginner. I wouldn't even say medium level because it's really just not a whole lot. It's the stockinette stitch. You just have to know like knitting basics, which I did not before, but hey, we all learn. We learn as we go. There's the internet. It's fantastic. And things go well. Julie Hoover has a bunch of really good, I think, in Brooklyn Tweed, for that matter, has a bunch of really good standard men's patterns that are well written. They're put together well in terms of like walking you through them. So it's not like those Norwegian patterns where like I've done one where it's like a full-on color work and it's 3 pages long, including the charts. So it really does walk you through. They're very clear. I would recommend that. I would recommend this yarn combination if you haven't tried it and you're in Europe. It's great budget combination, and I think it makes something really soft and warm. And I would also recommend the Westwool. Westwool has bicycle, which is his fingering weight, and tandem, which is his DK weight. And yeah, will I be making this again? No, 2's enough. I'm fine. We're good. But it was really interesting to see how I was. And I mean, like, for all the flaws that are in this and the things that are not perfect, for a first sweater, I'm pretty impressed by this. I think that this is a pretty good first sweater. And I'm really happy that I can still wear it and that it's worn well and I've enjoyed it. It's not one of those ones where people are like, oh, did you knit that? Whatever. You know, it's not a standout piece, but it's a really good, warm wardrobe staple. Anyway, that is the comparison between my first sweater I've knit and the latest sweater that I've knit. I hope you'd enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed this, despite the fact that I cannot speak. If you're here this long, thank you very much. I hope you're having a beautiful, sunny day where you are as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're interested, and leave a comment. I enjoy your comments. I really don't have much to do these days, so knitting and reading your comments really makes me happy. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you very much. Bye.